through very quickly the agenda for today's seminar. We'll look at some of the different types of GCP inspections. We'll look, of course, as the title is, we'll look a lot at the findings and how those relate. There are always issues with delegation and oversight, always issues with investigational product subjects, some issues with safety, source data. We'll talk about standalone investigators. Those are the investigator-sponsored studies or investigator-initiated trials or whatever you want to call them. GCP and protocol non-compliance, and in some ways it's inevitable that we get protocol non-compliance. I see FDA, MHRA and EMA all cite a lot in that area, probably because we choose investigators who are open to different ways of looking at things. They want to consider new therapies, new drugs and new devices. And we get these free thinkers and then say to them, it's great that you're interested in new ways of doing things. Now follow this protocol line by line, exactly to the letter. And maybe they're not the right kind of people with the mentality to do that. Maybe that's what's happening. We'll also look at electronic data capture and the trial master file in electronic format. Those are things you really do need to know about. Those are extremely hot potatoes for the MHRA. Insurance is one that's perhaps going down a little bit in their focus. We'll talk about facilities, serious breaches, which is a particular MHRA favorite since they invented it, and then we'll wrap up again. So you'll know by the end of this the remit of the MHRA, what they're worried about, the findings that they're most likely to be writing, and where they may give you a little bit of latitude to do things. So the types of MHRA GCP inspections, where you're likely to see them, you'll find them in the national program. So this is where they're doing risk-based inspections. They're not looking at post-submission so much as the EMA or FDA do. They're actually doing this on a routine basis. So based on their determination of your risk level, they will come out at a frequency of nominally every year to every 3 years. That is based partly on this compliance report that is voluntary to fill in, also on your past inspection history, and also on what you're doing, how many subjects you're doing it to. But they will come out and look on a systematic basis. So they're then using studies as examples of what you're doing rather than looking at a particular study for submission. A completely different focus from the FDA and from the EMA. What it means is that because they're using studies as examples, they can make a change right at the very last minute. And they have done that to me in the past, which really does shake things up. When you've prepared a group to be interviewed by the MHRA and they just change which study it's going to be that they look at, and you've got to prepare another group very, very quickly. The EMA doesn't have EMA inspectors. They use the national inspectorates from each individual member state of the European Union. So, of course, they will use MHRA inspectors as part of their inspection team. So that tends to be in respect of centralized applications to the European Union. You might see an MHRA inspector go out to look at you for an EMA submission. I've seen in the past in a London hospital 2 MHRA inspectors, but they were not inspecting according to the UK laws. They were inspecting according to the European directives because they were part of the EMA. So when you get your letter from them, really important to know as which inspectorate are they coming to visit you. You could see the same MHRA inspector, but potentially 2 different types of inspection. They also do joint inspections with other agencies as part of consistency and training across Europe. This is their finding classification system. They talk about critical, major, and other. I won't go into this in any depth, but obviously it's going to be where there is a huge impact to patient safety or to the integrity of the data that is going to be submitted from these studies. A recent change that they made was this point C, where they're saying that the accessibility to the trial master file was unacceptable. When they made this change, they've only done it in the past couple of years. They made this change because they were so frustrated with electronic trial master files and they couldn't find things or they couldn't get access or they couldn't see the documents clearly enough. And so they decided to put this as a specific line in the critical finding. And we said to them in the stakeholder engagement meeting, actually critical already encompasses this. You don't need to make a change. And they said, yes, we do need to make a change to get the message across because trial master files are so bad.